Ready, welcome back into the Oklahoma State women's basketball Ocali recap. We just watched a really close game. The score is a little bit, further out than the game might indicate. It was 69 to 62. Tulsa defeats Oklahoma State on a snowy Sunday evening. So Jacob, it was really, you hear a tale of two halves. This was a tale of three quarters and one quarter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the main thing that I took away is just if OSU was even decent in those three first quarters, I think that we would have had a different result. But in reality, you can't judge the game by one quarter. You can't really judge the game by three quarters. I think that Tulsa was the better team through four quarters, and the scoreline certainly showed that. So I my original impressions were it was just kind of a meh, lackluster sort of day for OSU. So, what I don't know. What did you think?
Well, Jacob, you kind of said you can't judge a team by one quarter. Well, if you could, I mean, Tulsa, they'd be a Final Four kind of lock, right? In that first quarter, they outscored Oklahoma State 26 to 17 and shot 62.5% from the field and made 57% of their threes. They were all over Oklahoma State offensively in that first quarter, and the Cowgirls were just kind of hit in the mouth. They tried to respond, but the response didn't really come until the fourth quarter, which was a completely different animal from what we'd seen all game.
Yeah, and I think one thing we have to start kind of watching for on a nightly basis is how does OSU start? I think OSU didn't start well against Southern. They didn't really start well against SMU, and then tonight they didn't really start well at all against Tulsa. So, that's 3 out of 6, or that's not a great track record in terms of starting games with strong play and trying to just assert dominance early. I don't think that this team has really been able to do that to this point. And I mean, it's only going to get tougher from here. If Tulsa was a problem, I mean, it's going to be a problematic thing the entire season.
Yeah, that I don't even know what to say because the slow starts, like Coach Attell, he just told us that the only game he thought they got off to a good start was the Alabama game. So that's one game this whole season where Coach Attell feels like his team has gotten off to a great start. And as bad as that start was, Jacob, getting outscored, 26 to 17 in the first quarter, the Cowgirls, they almost brought this thing back. In fact, they came within 1 point of tying the game up late in the fourth quarter. I was surprised that the Cowgirls were able to come out in the fourth quarter with such a desire to get back in it, because it had just looked like the offense was just slogging along and nothing was going. So for them to institute a press and really get things going, getting downhill in that fourth quarter, I think was really cool to see.
Yeah, and I think I can't recall, but I think this is the first real press that OSU's run this season. And if that's how their press is going to look, then it's going to work wonders, because Tulsa had no idea how to respond. It didn't look like for the first 4 or 5 times that the Cowgirls really put a press on. And, that's going to get you a lot of points back. And it looked to me like that game became a game because of that press. And I mean, I hate to pinpoint one specific thing that they did to make that a game, but that certainly was that thing.
Absolutely, that press changed the whole flow of the dynamic. It disrupted Tulsa. The Cowgirls ended up outscoring the Golden Hurricane 21 to 12 in the fourth quarter. But Jacob, realistically, that number was more like 21 to 8 or 6, because Tulsa had some late free throws, some big key threes at the end of the game that really kind of put this one on ice. But yeah, the Cowgirls were off to a fast start. We didn't have much people come out on a Sunday with the snow out. It was blustery. Nobody wanted to get out on those roads. But Jacob, the crowd that did show up, they got loud in that fourth quarter. But the Cowgirls just came so close. Winnett Mayberry hit a couple just big time threes, back to back threes, that just silence the run.
Yeah, I think that really summarizes it. Is that Tulsa answered the call when they needed to make shots. They made those shots, and it's really hard to win a game if you're going to give up that kind of shot whenever they step up and make it at that kind of moment. And I think Tulsa did that 2 or 3 times down the stretch, and that's just how you win a basketball game. And I mean, Coach Littell said, props to Tulsa. And I think that's a pretty sufficient way of looking at it. That was basically as good of what Tulsa could have asked for in their season opener as possible.
Absolutely. Definitely, surprising to see a team who hadn't played a single minute of competitive basketball this whole year. They flew to St. Louis, couldn't play a game because of COVID. They come here for their first action and just light the nets up with their shooting. Jacob, just running through some numbers for you. Did any particular players stand out to you in this game? Asbury had 20, Natasha Mack had 17, Alexia Keys had 10. Those are the Cowgirls' 3 leading scorers, and outside of them, really nobody had anything going. Taylor Collins had 6 points, but those 3 players were kind of the engine behind the offense and really the defense. Did anyone stand out to you, Jacob?
Yeah, I think Natasha Mack, of course, she had 17 points and 16 rebounds, and just having a double-double of that magnitude is noteworthy in itself. But I think a lot of Cowgirl fans probably have come to expect similar sort of stat lines from Natasha Mack. And I mean, she's been able to deliver a majority of the time, and that's something that has been a consistent success. And the Cowgirls really need to give her more and more opportunities to do that. And I think that's one thing that, tonight they did. I think earlier on in this season they hadn't. So I think it's a positive sign for Natasha to be doing this now. I think that's going to definitely pay off down the road.
I'm with you. So heading into conference play, any final thoughts on the 7-point defeat we saw tonight?
Um, the Cowgirls also shot 1 of 15 from 3. And if I mean, now, of course, they're not just taking shot after shot after shot from 3, but there's a fine margin that if you're going to take 15, you should be probably hitting 3 or 4 or maybe 5 even. And they didn't really do that tonight, and then they lost in a closer game. I think you could probably differential just a 3-point success, because I couldn't remember what Tulsa got from 3, but I feel like they were like 8 of 20 or 8 of 15 or something.
No, they were dead on 50%, 8 of 16 from 3.
Okay, so that I would point to as a deciding factor in this game.
Cowgirls certainly did a lot of things right in that fourth quarter, just couldn't make up for all the mistakes they made in the previous 3 quarters. For Jacob Sturm, Ben Hutchens, this is the Ocala women's basketball recap. We'll see you probably in Norman for conference play beginning on Tuesday. Thank you very much.